Good evening. It's Tuesday, the 14th of July, 2026, and it's 6 o'clock in the evening. And we host these on a 6 o'clock, well, I host these but with lovely guests, 6 o'clock on a Tuesday, 6 o'clock on a Thursday, and then also we have Monday lunchtimes, 12 o'clock. So usually we don't have anybody in the chat, which is a shame because we do on the all day and it's lovely. It adds to the atmosphere. So I am over the summer going to be better at marketing this. But Ali, bless her, has been pushing this session on was it Instagram, Facebook?
Facebook and Instagram, yeah.
Yeah. So Ali Bacon here has some news because we're going to talk about entering. There are three sort of segments to this: entering competitions, which we've both done, judging competitions, which I think we've both done. You did say you had some experience in all three, and then also running a competition. So we'll start with the first one of entering competition. So Ali has some news.
Hi, yeah, sorry, I'm trying to stop some weird sounds happening on my PC. But in fact, I'm not sure what day we're on, Tuesday?
Tuesday.
2 days ago, I won a prize
Yeah.
on Sunday at the Froome. Well, it's the Froome Festival.
Right.
Happens every year, and this year they had quite a big one. It was their anniversary, 25th anniversary, I think. And I won the short story Local Writer Prize.
Oh.
So not huge, but it's always something, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
it's been on my radar. Frame is on my radar as a competition. I haven't entered a competition for too long, and I was chatting to a new lady to romance. Her book is out tomorrow, and Susanna Hockham, and she's written a romance women's fiction, quite spicy apparently. And so she's going to be here on I think that's the Tuesday, the 21st. So next Tuesday, doing a Tell Us About Your Books, which is a new feature. Just done two so far. So it goes on from the author spotlight where we talk about the book specifically and then the author reads from it. And she was talking about the RNA, the Romantic Novelists Association, and which has been on my radar again for decades, a couple of decades, and I've never joined it. So I've applied to join it, and I tick enough boxes. I'm borderline. I was then looking at the CWA, Crime Writers Association, and I'm borderline. You need 8 points, and if I get 3 testimonials, which I could get relatively easily, I think, because I know lots of people in the CWA, then I could scrape through with 8 points. And I was talking about this because she mentioned the RNA, and I went to have a look at their criteria, and it says awards that you've won, list all the awards you've won, and I'm kind of. So I think they are important because they are our peers telling us that we can write.
Yes, in most cases that's the way it works. And I think it was always part of what I did because my first writing teacher, the first class I went to was actually a short story class. And she was very keen on short stories as a kind of stepping stone. I mean, not that they're easier than novels, but they are shorter than novels.
Yeah.
And she was fairly, convinced that being able to put something on your CV, that you'd had a short story published or shortlisted or whatever, it's just a good sign, isn't it?
I
So
do, absolutely.
even if you only get a mention, a listing or a commended or something like that, it shows that somebody has judged your writing to be worth reading. And, an agent or a publisher, if you're going down that route, that's just a nice little signal to them. So in all the years I spent writing my first novel, which is probably when I entered the first Froome one, actually, I was always trying to keep up entering short story competitions too. I don't so much now, I have to admit, just sort of when the feeling takes me.
And do you prefer a theme if they give you a theme or open or you're not, it doesn't really
Well,
matter either way.
uh, it sort of works both ways. A theme can sort of focus your mind, but then sometimes a theme just really doesn't appeal.
Right.
There are other two things going on locally at the moment which have a theme of heat, and I think, sorry, I don't really want.
Oh,
I mean, I think it's coincidental, but I
yeah.
just want to write about heat.
No.
Unless it was, a Parisian heater in the Antarctic or something like that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Take it however it
Oh
strikes
yeah,
you. There's
sometimes.
a local competition Wendover which I've started writing something for, and that to me it's the perfect theme. It's set in a library. Um, there's a ticket, and there's a crime involved. So I had no problem starting something. The limit actually, and I'm normally quite good with short stuff, is that I'm nearing the limit already, and I'm about halfway through the story. So I'm just going to write it, and then I can edit it down to just. I usually go just under 1,000 words, just in case they put it through some word checker and it comes out at just
Yeah,
over.
yeah. I mean, my biggest short story success probably, although it didn't win any major prizes,
Mm.
um, was a theme, but it was something I had already written or half written. I went to an event and I'd had a bit of a layoff from writing. I wasn't in a very good place.
Right.
And they announced the next event would have a theme of harvest.
Okay.
Immediately came into my mind that the novel I'd been struggling with, which was In the Blink of an Eye,
Mm.
um, had a fishwife, a fisherman's wife in it, or
Yeah.
a community of
Right.
fisher folk.
Yeah.
And I just thought of the harvest of the sea for some reason.
Mm.
And I developed a story around her, which actually then became part of the novel,
Yeah.
uh, called Silver Harvest.
Right.
And it got two or three short listings in different places. And I also read it at some spoken word events. And
Right.
it increases your confidence, doesn't it? When
It does. Exactly. And
that,
it's all good practice. The thing I think about short stories, and I love them, I started off as a short story writer,
yeah.
is that it makes you edit. It is all about, it's like poetry is about word choice. So if you're entering competition and you've got a limit, then you have
Mm,
to think, well, okay, I can't say it like that. How am I going to say? I like the idea, but how am I going to say it a different way so that it
mm.
gets it over in with more brevity?
And I always think with a short story, you kind of know when you've written a good one.
Mm.
Okay, it might not fit every scenario,
Mm.
but you can look at it and think, yes, that does what I want it to do.
Mm.
Whereas a novel is just a bit harder to get to that
I do
point.
I do find them harder. It's really interesting you say that you had a story already half written as part of the novel.
Well, it was meant to be
Yeah,
part of the novel, but it
yeah,
wasn't really coming together.
right.
Mm.
Because quite often I run a couple of competitions. I used to run 100 word exactly, and then life took over, and I stopped it for a year or so, and then I started it again in the form of 50 words, and that's free. So I run that on my blog and the links are on the Self Pub Fed's website front page. And so it's I have a different theme each month, which I think I prefer having a theme because otherwise I will just go through and see, well, if it's open, I think, oh, this is about the right word count, that'll do, kind of thing. And so I'm not writing anything new. And if I'm not given a theme, I'm thinking, oh, I don't really know what to write about. And you don't know who you're up against. If you're all writing to the same thing, then at least it's sort of you've got a not necessarily a smaller pool, but you've all written to the same theme. And so if you've got a judge who's got three stories on the same theme they really like,
Yeah,
then it's I think it's easier to pick.
yeah,
And it gets me writing something new,
yeah,
which I
yeah.
like, even if it doesn't get anywhere, it's writing something new. But quite often I will judge a short story, and H.E. Bates was one of the ones I used to do. and one of the only time we had a theme was called the Walk at Midnight, and there were I think there was one story that wasn't set at midnight. There was another story where nobody walked. There was no mention of walking. They'd obviously either missed the memo. It could have been that they'd um, already got this story or written story they wanted. Didn't notice that it had a theme this year because it was the only time it ever had a theme. And so they were disqualified because it didn't have a
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
match the theme. So do you know do you have a limit of how much you would pay for a short story? Because
Well, I
obviously
was,
short
yeah,
story competitions tend to be cheaper than if you're sending a novel. If you're sending a novel off for an award, they can be quite expensive, can't
yeah,
they?
I was going to say, have you entered any novel awards?
No, I
It's
should.
quite pricey. I entered one with my very, very first novel, and I did get a prize, not the prize, but a prize. But I don't think that was terribly expensive. I can't remember now, it was a long time ago. But I
Yeah,
mean, novel awards are typically £25 upwards. And I think they're very well publicised now. I mean, I feel the chances, okay, you can get a huge prize, but I do feel the chances of success are vanishingly small.
yes.
Over £20, I don't think. I certainly not for a short story, but I think I was looking, and even the bigger short story prizes now seem to be 14, which
Okay.
is so on dyslexia, because I had a quick look today.
Mm,
And about Bridport, I couldn't find the amount. And I think, well, if I thought I had something really great and I was feeling flush, yes.
yes.
But the sort of next tier down seemed to come in about £7 or £8. I
Mm.
mean, when I started, they were about a fiver, but
Yeah.
obviously
No,
inflation.
exactly. Yes,
Uh,
I think it's sort of anywhere between 5 and 10. Because
yeah.
also it depends on the prize money. Because
Mm,
some people say, well, why do they charge a fee? And I say, well, A, they've got to, if they're giving away prizes, how else are they going to get the money? Unless it's sponsored by somebody, then they have to charge something. And they pay the judge something for in most cases, unless it's for charity or something, then they would have to recoup that.
yeah.
And also, if they're posting anything out, they've got postage fees and so on and so
Mm.
forth. And
Yeah, I also think it's quite occasionally you see there is some attempt at transparency,
mm,
so much of your money is going to prizes, or all your money is going to prizes, which is,
mm,
makes you feel better. But yes, sometimes you do wonder how it all pans out.
yes. And quite often I'll see, especially things like I shouldn't really name names, but the sort of BBC short story or
Mm.
Bristol short story, you often see fairly top authors you've heard of coming in the top, which is they why shouldn't they be able to apply as well,
Yeah, I
just
think
because they're successful already,
I don't tend to apply for things if they're not anonymized.
right?
I think it's too easy for a judge to see something by a top name and think, wow.
Well, in
Um,
theory, they don't see them. They'd only see them anonymised, so you only
well, yeah,
find out who's won afterwards.
not
Uh,
universal. Yeah,
yeah. Usually there'll be an administrator. Whenever I've done any, I've sent it. I've received them completely.
yeah.
Obviously, the two I run, I know who they are, and I do very much judge them on merit. Um, and for me, it's how I feel about a story. If I go wow, then that invariably that will end up being in the at least top eight, the ones I do. Um, do you judge any? Have you judged any competitions?
I, well, it is a competition, but it's slightly different. Well, I've done two, which are similar. In Stroud, they run an event called Stroud Short Stories.
Okay,
They ask for submissions on a theme, and the 10 best are picked to read a sort of half yearly event, sort of
right.
spring, autumn. But it is quite a lot of kudos to be picked. I mean, it's free. Uh,
Hmm.
But they do hire a theatre, and people pay tickets to attend. It's very popular. And of course, the other thing they do, which most short story competitions do, is they publish an anthology. So you eventually, get your name in print as well, which is, quite a boost for somebody who hasn't got to that point in their writing. But
Absolutely.
anyway, I'm the co-judge sometimes for Stroud Short Stories.
Right.
Uh, but yes, that has been really fascinating. But I have performed there several times, which is how I came to be a judge. And I think every competition has a certain vibe, especially the spoken word ones.
Mm.
And, it's theme, yeah, is really important.
Mm.
But there's also, in a sense, there are questions of sort of tone, things that might make it somewhere, won't make it other places. But
Mm.
you can always look at the anthologies and decide if you're writing in that vein. I mean, not that it's in any way uniform, but there are some things that wouldn't fit in, if you know what I mean.
No, absolutely.
Tori said H.E. Bates. That's quite a big prize, isn't it?
Yes, unfortunately, it doesn't happen anymore. That was run by Northampton, well, in collaboration with permission from H.E. Bates, because I think he was Northamptonshire connected, and so they ran it for quite a few years, and it was on when I was there, and I moved away 4 years ago, and just checked to see whether it was still on, and it stopped a couple of years ago, which is a shame. But I know it's a lot of work because when we were doing it, we had I think there were probably around a dozen members of the regular members of the group, and
Okay.
so Nick Hamlin, who ran, they've had various chairs over the years. I was chair, I think, 1 or 2 years. And so he was the competition administrator, and he'd get all these submissions in, and it'd be up to 2,000 words, which is quite long. And I think on average we had sort of between 100 and 150 entries. And I think at the time it was something like £4, and the top prize was 150. But then I think it went up to something like £6 and the top prize of 500. So that was really worth doing. And so we'd each have a bundle. They'd come in paper form or by email, and he'd print them off. And we each get a stack of anybody who wanted to do it get a stack of 25. And because they were on paper, and often if I get them by email, I'll print them out. And I love titles, so
Yeah.
I'll then lay them out. So quite often I'll put them in the most intriguing. If they come in by email, I number them 1 to 10, of however, either alphabetically or if they've numbered them already. And then if there's a title that particularly grabs me, I tend to leave that till last, and I start with the more ordinary, sort of the journey, all the way up to. There was one story for H.E. Bates. It didn't get through, unfortunately, but he won. The same author won with a different story the following year, which was called "The Bus Driver Who Stopped and Then Didn't." And that was I was thinking, okay, and I like to be intrigued by. It's the same with novels. I like to be intrigued by titles. I think if you've put some effort into your title,
Yeah,
it's something else that can grab you.
I tend to agree. I mean, reading for Stroud, we just both read everything, and in the order that it arrives.
Mm.
I don't think a story's ever been, rejected because the title wasn't that good.
No, no.
You made the effort to write a really lovely story.
Mm.
Don't just give it some throwaway title or
Yeah,
a cliche. Just make it stand out even more, and
yeah.
that will endear you to the
Well,
judges.
I remember submitting we're talking about writing for magazines, I think next week or this Thursday actually, and I remember sending off a story to Women's Weekly called "The Journey," and it was about a woman who's on a plane, on a plane, and she's going off to somewhere, I can't remember where, somewhere exotic, and her husband's recently died of a heart attack. Very cheerful, and probably why it was rejected from Women's Weekly actually back in the day. And but it was they'd always holidayed in the UK. He didn't want to go on a plane, always holidayed in the UK. And but she'd be sent from her family and friends, she'd be sent postcards from wherever they went. And then she'd put them on the fridge with magnets or post-its, sticky pads or whatever. And there was just a phrase which said there were so many um, postcards covering the fridge. There was no white left. And I just loved the phrase "no white left," and I changed it to that. And I think it was just made it a bit more intriguing. Still didn't get anywhere. I think it's in one of my anthologies actually, or it might just be on my computer. I don't know, but yeah, titles do. I think for anything, aren't they? For books, if
Yeah,
they grab you,
yeah, yeah.
then you're part way there.
And especially if there's a theme where there's going to be a certain similarity, to the stories. If
Yes.
a title that, doesn't just give into the theme,
Mm.
like Journey or, something like
Yes. No,
that.
exactly. Well, quite often, especially for short stories, I'll pick out a title from a phrase. There'll be a
Yeah.
phrase. And there was a novel I just sent back, a lady fairly new to. We've known each other for years actually, but I've just edited her latest book for her, and she was asking for titles, and so I had that at the back of my mind as I was going through the book, and there were several. Obviously, it's got to represent the piece, but there were several I came up with, and there was one in particular that she really liked. So we'll see whether she goes with that one or something else. But I'll then get it back in a couple of weeks to go through again. And if she's not settled on a title, then I'll go back through it again.
Yes, you can spend half your life, half your life you're writing the novel, the other half you're thinking about the title.
And the synopsis and the cover letter and
Yes,
and so on. Yes,
my latest one had about 5 titles.
really.
And the publisher didn't like the one I submitted.
Right.
To start all over again. Because I
Yes.
got there in the
And
end.
it's also if you pick something, well, I don't know. I'm kind of torn whether you pick something that is out there already. So if people, obviously not something like Harry Potter, but let's think of the Housekeeper. Frida McFadden has got, I think, a couple of housekeeper books. So if you happen to write a novel where it's about a housekeeper, then if people are looking for her book, they'll also spot your book. So that's not a bad thing, is to have a title that's similar to somebody else's. And titles aren't copyright, so you can do that.
I must admit, I hadn't thought of that. People are usually struggling to make theirs distinctive, but
Mm,
something to be said from piggybacking on
yeah,
some.
exactly. Well, there are two thriller authors, one called Jeffrey Archer with a J, and there's also Jeffrey Archer with a Geoffrey. And so I don't think he does too badly from coming up in search results for Jeffrey with a J. So
So,
do you have any favourite competitions or anything you're going to? Have you submitted your novel?
um, I was looking through my record, and
Mm,
it appears that I did submit once, I can't even remember when, to the Grindstone Literary. Does that ring a bell?
okay,
And that was 16,
it does vaguely.
that was 16
Yeah,
pounds. And there are some others which, you know, some sort of independent publisher. I know I submitted to theirs a couple of years ago, but I think it was a kind of one-off.
right.
But I tend not to. I think hopefully if it's any good, it can find a place on its merits anyway.
Yeah.
Or, I know where it might go and where it probably wouldn't go.
Mm.
And I just think you could well be throwing your money away. I mean, not that I want to put anybody off, but
But you
yeah,
never know, do you? You have to just
very good.
rely on it being
I
a
mean, it's so hard,
reputable source.
cutting 10 out of 100 stories. It's pretty hard, and you're rejecting things that are really good. So, if you enter competition, you also have to go through the rejection period.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I run there was a 50 words that's on my blog. It's free. I also run an up to 300 word competition as part of Self Pub Fest. It's been one so far. The second round, runs out at the end of July, and so it's up to 300 words, and it's £3 per submission, or two for £5, and half the pot is split between the top three and the winner, the first, second, and third, and then the other half of the pot goes to the charity, three local charities. And so it's lovely reading those, um, and I purposely wanted, although it's raising money for charity, I purposely wanted to keep the price low, and 300 words is short, so I wouldn't want to charge too much for it anyway. But there's a website I subscribe to called Duotrope, Duotrope, duotrope.com, and every Sunday morning, and every time it comes in, they email with their latest list of, it's not just competitions, it's competitions for all formats, short stories, novels, etc., but also lists of agents looking open for submissions, closed for submissions, competitions that are no longer running, competitions with fees and without fees. And so it's a really, really good comprehensive list. And it costs about £50 a year to subscribe to. And every time the email comes in, I think, oh, Sunday, another week gone. Yeah, the last one only came in yesterday. They come in so quickly. And I have this nerdy Excel spreadsheet, which won't surprise anybody watching who's watched a few of these, where I'm cataloguing them all, so that I can, when I've got time, I'm hoping next month, to then really look at, see what I've got and see what's out there and what I can submit to, and start sending my novel. I want to go through all my novels again, because it's been a while since I went through them. Go through all of them again, and then submit them to places, get some recognition.
Having said that, you're never going to win a novel prize, I've just realised that two of my writing buddies have actually got somewhere with, I think it was the Exeter Novel Prize.
The what, sorry?
Novel
Exeter.
Prize. Yeah, yeah. So it's not impossible.
No,
Don't listen to
absolutely. The thing is,
impossible.
it's like, I mean, the odds have got to be better than winning the lottery, but somebody wins the lottery. Somebody wins Greatest Hits Radio. This is what Tim and I are doing. I do Greatest Hits Radio. It's £777,000 this Friday, and Classic FM do their own version. But it's like Bauer Network, where Bauer has so many magazines. This is a rate. In fact, I think it might even be the Bauer Group, where they have so many people entering that the chances are minuscule. But every Saturday they record the people who've received the phone call at 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. And you think, well, if you don't do it, you're not gonna win anything. So
Another good place, you mentioned Duotrope.
yeah,
Another handy place to go is a guy called Christopher Fielden.
Fielden.
He's
Yes.
actually in Bristol, but he runs a big mailing list with, I think it's short stories, possibly poetry. But yes, it's all broken down into ones you pay for, ones you don't pay for,
Mm.
different genres and themes, and ones that are regular and ones that are just sort of, and he does his own, of course.
He does. There's Hull
Who's
to
all at
some Hull. That's the one.
that?
Yes, I must get in contact with him actually, because I think we have been in contact back in the day. So it'd be nice to get him on here actually, talk about competitions and his website. I will. I'll drop him a line, because I do get his newsletter, where he comes up on winning words or winning something. Yeah, I subscribe to loads, and then I just file them in my competitions folder on in my email system to go right. Yes, so when I've got time, I shall go through all those and send them off.
No, I
And
used
as
to
you say, it's kudos. if you can have, the more you can have on your CV, especially if it's relevant. If you're submitting for, say, for instance, want to join the Crime Writers Association, they want to know which awards you've won.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's great. It can work with marketing.
Mm,
I mean, Linen Press brought out a very good, actually, short story anthology
okay,
uh, just before my latest novel was published, and I was in it. So, you know, it's like forward promotion. You could say, "Oh, look, I'm in this, and I have a novel coming out," and
exactly.
good readings and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's all grist to the mill, really.
Yeah. Well, the more you can share on social media, and again, it's our peers saying that our writing is good. It's a bit like I love doing blog tours because other people are then reviewing my books, and it gives me quotes that I can pick from and put on covers or social media posters or something. But again, it goes out to their audience. But it's somebody else saying that our books are good, hopefully.
Mm.
You got anything you'd like to?
Yeah, I was just thinking, do I have any favourite competitions? As I say, there are, apart from Stroud short stories, there are other
mm,
or word of mouth things. I mean, which again, I think is a good sort of discipline.
mm,
Standing up and reading to an audience. I mean, partly it helps you hone your prose. You think you've edited it, but
mm.
when you stand up and read it yourself, you think you'll edit it some more.
Yes. Well,
And
uh, Beth and BB Elson and I were doing a critique swap last week. And I thought I had been through this. It's a very early draft, but I had been through it. And I get the computer to read it out or my Kindle to read it out. And so I am listening to it while I'm looking at it on the screen because they're reading it as it is. And yet, when I was reading it to her, I was thinking, this is terrible. I've got this in the wrong place and that and the. So yes, I think when reading it out, it does, as you say, it gives you confidence as well.
I mean, the first Stroud Short Stories event I went to, I was, as it were, a complete novice. I hadn't even been to Stroud before. I didn't know anyone or anything. I was trembling like a leaf.
Right.
But okay, I probably wasn't very good, but at the end, people clapped.
Mm,
You
yeah.
think, well, actually, I quite like that, having toiled over my computer in a darkened room, for however
Oh,
many hours.
absolutely.
It does you good
Yes.
to get out, and also it's a great way of meeting other people.
Yeah.
Um, doing a bit of networking. So I mean, that would be a sort of favorite of mine to submit to when I'm not judging it. I've been a bit lazy lately.
Right.
And yeah, there are some that, I mean, basically anything I've submitted to, I'm on their mailing list. So
Mm,
you get reminders every time they run another one. And
yeah.
I must admit, I haven't been doing much about it for the last couple of years, but I'm starting to feel a bit interested again. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's also good to have short story or even poetry if you're into that as a
Mm,
kind of, sideline or alternative if you feel things are grinding to a halt in novel writing.
yeah. No, exactly. No, I've got to just mention that I've got a writing competitions and opportunities page on Self Pub Fest. There's an information area, so there's a page on that. But there are writing magazines, like Writing Magazine, that runs their own
Yeah.
competitions. And apparently, I didn't know, and I've filed my magazine away somewhere. I'm going to have to dig it out. That I was shortlisted in June, in the June edition, and I found out the day that I received the July edition. So when I saw the magazine in its white cover, I was thinking, great, there's the June edition, forgetting they're a month ahead. So I then opened it and realised it was the July edition. And so I'd missed the June edition. So it was just a friend who was reading the previous edition had said, "Oh, your name's in it," and I
Mm.
vaguely remember entering it. Um, but then the time goes on. But I do have and I'll also talk about how much I got was paid. There are three I did recently. Um, anyway, for cataloguing, when I send things out, I have a January these folders They have January to December. So when I've sent something out, I put it in the relevant month. And then this is when I was more prolific. When I got to that month the following year, if that was still in there and I hadn't heard anything, and occasionally I would check when the deadline, they said if you haven't heard anything by or the results are announced, then that frees up your story to go somewhere else. And with the 50-word competition, you can send up to three, 50, it has to be 50 words excluding the title. And then you send three, and I pick my favourite one of the three, and then email saying this is my favourite, and then they can send the other two elsewhere. And then the top three are published. And then that's another thing, is that there are a lot of free competitions out there run by the likes of me who just enjoy reading. And then I give prizes of my online courses, which don't cost me anything, and editing, which only costs me time. So they do get prizes for not having, and I got probably I think up to about 45 people, anywhere between a dozen in 1 month, up to about, I think I've got 45 people altogether who've submitted to it. But as a judge, recent competitions, I don't know if I should name them, but it was one in Leicestershire. I was paid £75, and that was to judge not that many. I think about eight stories of 1,000 words, 1,500. I think I should have looked at this up before I did this. And I was paid £75 for that, including, I was doing it for a friend actually, including travelling to the town that it was in of the writing group. And I stayed overnight, which was my choice, because Tim was supposed to join me with the dog. And the hotel cost me £74.99. So I made a penny.
Oh, I must
And travel and petrol. Obviously, I have a hybrid,
have,
so I'm petrol. But I was doing it as a friend, and the town had lots of charity shops, so I was quite happy the following morning. And then another one which was nearer to us, and Tim actually drove me, and then he spent the time in the town. I was just about half an hour away, and I was paid £50 plus travel for that, so it's £56, I think. For doing that. For again, that was so we're not talking big money. But I did one year. I did after. I think I was still in the group, but I was a head judge. So H.E. Bates had the administrator who received everything, and then they had the writing group who received the entries and did this round robin. So everybody would at least have two batches. So every batch would be read by at least three people, because Nick, the administrator, as well. And then I was one of the year's head judge. Sue Moorcroft, who I've seen recently, she was 1 year. Katie Ford was another one year. I had quite a few people. Jane Wenham Jones, bless her, she was another year. And I was paid 150 for that. And I only had to travel 2 miles. So that was rather good.
oh, I must admit, I've never seen it as a money-making opportunity.
No.
And I've also done it. My own writing group, we've also run sort of mini competitions, but I don't think they had entry fees.
Right.
But yes, I think you want to be at least sort of recompensed for your effort. I mean, it doesn't need to be a lot of money, or it might just be some sort of in-kind kind of thing. But yeah, or a sort of honorarium rather than a sort of big amount. But yeah, let's face it, we're more likely to do it again if we feel valued, and it's always
Yes. No,
quite
exactly.
to have an actual value in the value.
Yeah. And either, as you said earlier on, either it should be sponsored so they have a fee, or have some kind of fee being charged so that they can recompense.
Yeah. I mean,
Because
it's
we don't make a lot of money, do we, in the writing industry?
and it is quite a big sort of a mental effort and sort of organizational thing.
Yeah.
Read and decide on a large number of short stories in a relatively short space of time, which I've often had to do. And it's like a job, because you can't really put it off. And
no, and it's taking your time.
well, you don't want to shortchange anybody.
No. And being self-employed, time is money. You know, if you're not being paid to do something other than for the love of it, something you do feel is valuable for yourself, if not for other people, then you still have to make a living. The next thing being I'm judging is Calibre, who are one of the Self Pub Fest charities, and that I'm not sure the fee, and I probably shouldn't say anyway because it's still ongoing. But they've received funding for that, so I think the theme is empathy. It opened this month, and I think it closes in September. So I'll put the details on this page. Okay.
Okay.
What's next? Do you have any plans to submit something? Anything in the pipeline?
Well, yeah, actually, I'm sort of thinking about it. Again, it's something that I'm kind of writing anyway. But because when I wrote In the Blink of an Eye, my last but one novel, in the end, I sort of wrote it as short stories and linked them up. So now when I'm writing a novel, I'm always looking for a little short story opportunity on the side. So there's a local event happening. It's nice actually. I went to one before. It's a lady called Claire Redaway. She does lots of short stories and she's published as well. But she's running something called Stories on the Farm. So it's an outdoor event
Yeah.
on the outside Bath in September. So if I can get my act together, I'll submit. Not that I'll necessarily be chosen, but it sounded like the one I went to was a really great atmosphere, and I think they have, plans in place if it shouldn't be a lovely evening.
Well, we saw an advert a couple of days ago for Omaze, and I think Tim. There's only I do it. I think Tim does it as well. Where you can win a house. Again, it's what are the chances? But some of the money, like the National Lottery and like most of these things, some of the money goes to charity. And the latest house is a £4 million. It's beautiful, sort of stone built. It is a mansion worth 4 million in Bath. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw that popping up somewhere on my.
Yes, and £100,000 because it wouldn't be cheap to run, and a Land Rover, Range Rover, a posh Land Rover. Yes, that'd be nice. So then
short story competition.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Anyway, thank you.
No,
we'll do this again, and definitely, I'm going to aim to get Christopher Fielden on, because I think he'd be a really interesting to chat about him and his website and so on. So thank you.
Okay.
And see you again soon, hopefully.
Yeah, hope so. Okay, thanks for that, Morgan.
That's all right, no problem. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.